Hi, everybody, and welcome to the first Zoom-based parent workshop. I am now recording uh, the. If it's all right, I'd like to be able to record your questions. If anybody is like, no, I don't want to be recorded, then like Christina and Sasha, and Isabella and Jess are, you can leave your video off, or you can send me, put a message in the chat window, saying, like, please don't record me. Once I get to showing the handouts, I'm going to spotlight myself, so it will only be recording me, even if you do leave your video on, but I'll still be able to look at everybody. And what I would love is, as I get started, if a couple of folks who've sort of got questions can sort of seed the chat window, because the as I'm covering things, uh, as questions pop to your mind, one of the wonderful things about Zoom is you don't have to wait for me to be finished to ask your question. You can throw it into the chat window, and so if there's lively chat conversation happening in parallel to the workshop, I think that's good for everybody. All right, yeah, thanks, Sasha. That's exactly what I want, right? Like all it takes is a couple of people sort of making use of the chat window, and then it's like, all right, we can all do this. It's like CNN where you're like watching the news anchor and also like checking out the news feed at the same time. Denser information, and possibly a way to sort of get an answer from one of the folks here, because everybody here is kind of in the same boat where they're supporting young actors, and so the intelligence of the room is so much more than I'm going to have time to sort of fully take advantage of here. One of the things that I would love to do at the very beginning, is kind of pop you into some little breakout rooms, and just so that you can connect with some other parents, but also so that you can, like this is just something that's good for Zoom workshops, to kind of break the ice a little bit, but to figure out, if there are sort of like a top question. There's a lot of stuff that I'm going to cover, and I'm going to cover what's in the handout. I also have a handout on resumes, and I'm going to go over resume template in detail. I also have a number of students who've given me permission to use their resumes for reference. And so I'm going to show you a couple of professional resumes that are formatted by talent agencies, so you can see what those are like. And also the two different resumes where a student was like, here's my resume. And I was like, notes, 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 notes. And then they used the template, to fix their own resume. Uh, the If we've got time after that, I'm going to talk about camera technique. I ran a Zoom workshop for a professional association in October, and one of the things that is so relevant to film and TV acting right now is being able to do a professional looking self tape at home. And it is not difficult in terms of like equipment or setup, but there is information to know there. And so I've got a handout for that. I'm going to run you through that to the best of my ability. So that means we're going to cover agents. We're going to cover Zoom setup, and we're going to cover resumes in particular detail. Because I'm assuming that those of you who have agents are like, I want to tweak my resume to make it the most effective. And Thea, I'm just going to mute you. I hope you don't mind. Uh, the Those of you who have agents are like, I want to tweak it to make sure that it's as effective as possible. And those of you who don't have agents are like, how can I basically build this marketing tool in a way that will help a cast or help a talent agent look at it and say, aha, oh, this is just what I want. So maybe before I get into that, and for some of you, like for some of you, this is going to be uh, like very familiar. Like Megan, who's in the corner of my screen. Like I know this like works in film. There's lots of folks who are film and film adjacent. So I will go through this as quickly as possible. Uh, but I think it's important to have just like a little bit of context, so that before I put you into the breakout rooms, to sort of see what the top questions are, to give you just a little bit of overview so you have the right language for those questions. So I'm spotlighting myself now. Here we go. Boom. Uh, the So just like a quick overview of what I think of as the actor's food chain, which is producer, then director, then casting director, then the talent agent, and then the actors. Right. So the producer is in charge of the money. which means they make the final decisions. So the producer actually decides who gets cast. And it's very common for parents, for professional actors, for kids especially, to get confused and think the casting director makes final decisions, and they do not. The producer is in charge of the money, and it's their project, thus they make final casting decisions. Now, sometimes they'll allocate small decisions to the director or to the casting director, but even then, usually the producer has to sign off on those decisions. They're like, yes, we definitely like this person, boom, check. So producers in charge of the money, they hire everybody functionally, and it's um, it's actually normal for a project. The more money there is, the more producers. So I've heard of, especially when they're looking for the main cast for a series that is a new series, there might be 10 producers, all of whom have to sign off on the top six, cast. Right. So there's a lot of that is out of our hands. Parents are always like, how do I help, my kid get cast? And I can talk to you in some detail about how do you help your talent agent, get you in for auditions, right? What kind of resources do you need? What kind of skills do you need in the room to help those auditions be successful? What I can't actually answer is what makes a producer say yes to one kid over another kid. That's all going to be guesswork. And anybody who looks you in the eyes and says, this is the magic way, probably they're trying to sell you something, and you should be a little suspicious, in my opinion, right? So the producers are in charge of the money. The director, they hire everybody, including the director. Director's in charge of the story, right? So the director oversees everybody on the set, particularly the actors, and they're shaping the story and in charge of the story. Directors often will sit in on callbacks or run callbacks by Zoom or in person. So they're very influential in casting, but they don't usually have the final say. That's a conversation they have with the producer. The casting director is somebody who is hired by typically the producer just to run auditions. So the casting director, the reason casting directors are really important is that they're the narrow point on the funnel, right? There's more producers, there's vastly more actors. The narrowest point on the funnel is casting directors. For film and TV casting directors, there are maybe 9 of those people in Vancouver who do all of the work, and really like 4 of them do the bulk of it. Your 4 offices. Often most of the casting directors in Vancouver are pairs now. So those relationships with those 9 people basically determine whether or not you get auditions, which is your access point to the people who could hire you. Right. So the casting director is the gatekeeper. When they get hired by producer, they get a copy of the script. They write down little descriptions of all the characters. The only people they send those to are professional talent agents. So parents are often like, "Do I need a professional talent agent?" Yes, you do. Unless you have a friend who's a producer, in which case they can send your stuff right to the casting director and say, "Hire my friend." If that's you, great. Yay you. But if you want access to more than just your friend, you will need a professional talent agent if you want to work on professional projects. Because the only the only people that casting directors send stuff out to is professionally licensed talent agents. They have to be licensed with the province of BC. There's a whole bunch of rules and regulations. There are about 110 different agencies. The top like 25 or 30 I've included in the handout that I sent you by email. Or at least what I think of as the top 25 or 30. If you're with an agency that's not on that list, it might just mean that I don't have a personal relationship with them. That doesn't mean they're not awesome, right? Those are just the ones that I have the closest relationships with, that I've referred students to and I've seen students work with over the course of the last 2, 5, 10 years, right? So talent agents, are essentially marketing professionals whose only product is actors. And all talent agents do is they hustle their actors. And they're like, we see my actors, we see my actors, we see my actors, we see my actors. They're marketing professionals, and then they negotiate the contracts, once an actor is hired, right? So they negotiate with producers once you're hired, but mostly their job is hustling and trying to get you jobs, trying to get you auditions. So the other thing, the mistake that I hear parents make a lot, and really I hear actors make it much more, is they say, my agent's not getting me enough auditions. And so or my agent's not giving me enough auditions. The agent doesn't decide who gets auditions. The agent is not the gatekeeper. The casting director is the gatekeeper. Right? So the talent agent is just a marketing professional, and they only make money on percentage. They make 15% of what you make if you book work, which means that if you don't work, they don't eat. So they have an incentive to hustle every time they think you're appropriate, right? So there are maybe 200 different talent agents, in Vancouver, right? So there's 110 agencies. Some of them have like 15 agents. Like a good chunk of them have only one. So let's say there's 200 talent agents. Right. So there's 9 of these. There's 200 of these, and then there's probably 20,000 actors, 10, I don't know. The last time I had numbers, it was, it's like somewhere between 10 and 15,000, actors. So, if we wanted to make the numbers really easy, we would say that there's 20,000 actors, that each agent has about 100 actors on their roster, which I think is fairly accurate if we're talking about actors for commercials and film and TV, right? So that's what I mean. This actor side is massive. This agent side is like this big, this casting director side is tiny, and then directors, although most directors are like actors, not working most of the time, and then producers. And so the talent agents are your marketing professionals that help you get to that narrow point on the funnel. And so what the actors can do is they can make sure that the talent agent has the materials that will help present them in the best light. And um, the and initially, because there's only like 200 of these people, and all of them get the same breakdowns. Like there's no talent agent who gets like special access to breakdowns. Some of them do definitely have special relationships with these 9 people, but everybody at least sees the breakdown. So when a character comes out from one of these 9 folks, all of the talent agents get it, whether they're like a tiny talent agent way out in the Fraser Valley or up in the Okanagan, or whether they're a huge, talent agency, in Vancouver, powerhouse, whatever. They all get the same breakdowns. The Right, another point of confusion sometimes. And so then what happens is, since all of those folks have the same breakdowns, they all submit anybody who they think is appropriate, right? Because they want to eat. And so what that means is that let's say, Amelia, I'm going to use you as an example, because I can see you right there, right? So ta-da, this is Amelia, right? So so if I'm a talent agent and I'm repping somebody who looks like Amelia, I'm going to try and only have one person who looks like Amelia, because when a breakdown comes out that needs somebody who looks like Amelia, you know, if I send 4 of them, maybe only one of them gets called in for an audition, right? And my people end up in competition with each other, and then they're unhappy, and it's confusing for the casting director. Also, this is why you can only have one talent agent, because if Amelia has 4 of those 200 people representing her, they all submit her, and then who's the casting director going to call? So that's why you can only have one talent agent, because everybody gets the same breakdowns. Oh, yay, chat window. Yes, you can have a background agent that is separate from your acting agent, Nemo. So your background agent, some agencies handle background as well, but it's normal to have a background agent, and a talent agent. Now that used to be more problematic than it is, honestly. Like it's gotten even easier, because especially right now, most auditions are self tapes. The problem with having a background agent used to be that right. It's hard for these 200 people to get you in to see these 9 people. And so one of these 200 people would be like, oh my God, we did all this work. We really hustled and we got you an audition. And you're like, yeah, sorry, I'm kid number 400 on the background of some concert, and they were like, oh, why do we do all this work? Gar. But right now, if you get that audition, you're like, great, I will slip off, and I'll find a blank wall first thing in the morning before I go, or back when I get home, and I will just shoot the audition and I will send it to you. So now you can do that, in a way that you couldn't before. So I think it's even easier than it ever has been to have both a background agent and an acting agent, in my opinion. And the mom of one of my students, has been doing lots of background work. I don't know if Mel is here with us. If you are, Mel, just pop into the chat window to back me up. But she's been doing a lot of background work, and it hasn't been a conflict, for her and her daughter. And so I think that's kind of enough overview to get us started, right? We've got the shape, of things for you, which is, the producers in charge of the money, directors in charge of the story, casting directors in charge of the auditions. They're the gatekeeper. Talent agents are in charge of marketing. They're the marketing professionals who you want to basically hire to be on your side. Thankfully, you hire them by paying them a percentage. There's no upfront cost. And it's actually, I think, illegal in BC for there to be any upfront cost for a talent agent. So if you meet somebody who's like, "We love your kid, just $1,000," they actually literally just want your money, and you should report them. And then there's the actors who are responsible for doing good work, right? Because these 9 people have 20,000 people to choose from. If they say yes to you, if they're like, yeah, we had at least 200 options, and we chose you for one of the ones we're going to see, and you go in and you're like, and you do not do skilled work, they just have no reason to see you again, right? So it's this strange thing where it's like, once you get here, like once you get into see these, it's like being on the provincial team, if you're a competitive athlete. And like in the world of soccer, like you don't ever, it's not like they just jump you into the provincial team, but in the world of auditions, they're like, yeah, what the hell, let's put you in. Yeah, and oh, you fell on your face. Okay, bye. We'll just check you out again in another couple of years, maybe. And so that's why these talent agents, the good ones, will be careful about what they submit you for. They won't send you in they'll only send you in for things that they're like, yes, if Amelia goes in for that, Amelia's going to look good, which is going to make me look good, which is going to make us both more likely to get paid. And so one of the things that I'm going to talk about later is that building the relationship with your talent agent, even once you've got one, building that relationship so that they have a sense of who you are, or who your child is, just actually who they are as a person and how their work is growing, so that they can start to feel more and more confident about, like, yes, here's the kind of things I can send them in for, and they will definitely be successful with. That's really important for a talent agent, because if they put their reputation on the line and they say, yeah, like Amelia's going to kill this, 15 pages of text for tomorrow, she can handle it, no problem, she's got this, and do you see the scared look on Amelia's face right now? I wish I'd spotlight her, right? And then Amelia gets that and she's like, 15 pages, oh my god, and she tapes it, and like, of course she does her best job, but like, that's a lot of text for somebody who hasn't done 15 pages of text. And the talent agent, and then the talent agent's like, she's got this, she's amazing for this, she can totally handle it. The casting director in the world of self-tapes watches the first 30 seconds, sees that Amelia is struggling, doesn't watch the rest of it, and doesn't call Amelia in for that size of role, possibly ever, or more realistically, just for a couple of years, because there's so many actors that inside of a couple of years, that casting director has literally forgotten who Amelia is. She has completely forgotten her name, her face, and everything about her. And so she'll show up in a submission. She'll be like, wow, new person. And that happens about every 6 months. Like, unless you really like hurt yourself or hurt somebody else, they're going to forget who you are. Like, it's really hard to screw up an audition bad enough to like permanently wreck any part of your career, especially as a young person. So that's why, one of the reasons why starting as a young person is such a great idea, because not only like you're going to physically look different a couple of years later, and also you've got this forgetting on your side. But Nemo, this is true for adults as well. Is that like 6 months later, they're just not going to remember who you are, right? Because like kids, maybe there are 200 kids who look like Amelia in Vancouver, but in terms of like, probably like the color of your hair, is like unique, but in terms of yeah, exactly. But in terms of like Caucasian women between the ages of 20 and 35, there are probably like there are literally thousands of them. Like, it's probably like the most saturated category, which is great for you, because it means that, again, if they're like, wow, she's amazing and perfect for this character, they'll remember you. And otherwise, it's just gone. They'll watch the first 30 seconds and then they'll watch the next one. It used to be that casting directors, you would see 10 people for an in-person audition, right? So 200 submissions, and think about it. So the more open-ended that is, so it's not like girl who looks like Amelia that they're asking for. If it's actually kid in class, or better, like kid on playground, right? So it's open age, open ethnicity, open gender, then then each of those 200 agents might submit 4 or 5 different kids, right? So they can get 1,000 submissions for a 1-line or 2-line role. And previously, because producers want to save as much money as possible and only pay the casting directors as little as possible, they would only have time to see 10 people. Now in the world of self-tapes, with a 1-line role, it's not even going to take them 30 seconds to watch them. So they can see 30 or 40. So there are more opportunities, now, I think, to be seen. It means that probably the percentage of folks being booked, is lower, but that was sort of always going to be a reality. Especially for folks getting started, it's really an asset. It means that you're going to get opportunities you might not otherwise get, because it's so low barrier for casting directors to say, yeah, sure, yeah, put Amelia on tape. That's fine. With 1 line, whatever. Like if she's not right for it, then it takes us 20 seconds to find out. Piece of cake. It also is part of why I want to talk about the self-tape setup today, because if you don't make it easy for them to look at, then you are increasing what's called their cognitive load. And I haven't heard casting directors talk about this. They're too busy casting. But basically, if you make it hard for them to look at or hard for them to think about in any way, because they're watching hundreds of them, one right after the other, the likelihood that they will go, I don't know, I'm just not feeling this one, becomes higher. So the first 10, 15, 30 seconds of your audition tape is more important now than it has ever been. That's sort of part of the new world of casting, and making tapes. Okay, so will you be sending us the slides and things? Yes, I will, and you're welcome to grab screen caps, and absolutely. I will also share the slides. Can you elaborate on making it harder for them to watch? Yes, I'm gonna show you some. I'm going to show you some things handouts that I put together for like how to be on Zoom workshop, and I'm going to show you my own setup here. I'll show you the equipment that I'm using, and then I'll actually show you sort of like 2 other options in terms of like just equipment in my house. So you can see kind of what you've got close by. And what about open casting calls, right? So an open casting call. So you can imagine, right? Like sometimes basically producers will insist on what's called an open casting call. And that's because producers are sometimes they come from an acting background, but very, very rarely. Usually a producer, is the kind of person who's really good at making money, and they're making money by being in the film industry, right? They're essentially business people, and they come from all different places. Sometimes it's like, I had a mining company and I sold it and I decided to spend that $100 million making films. That was what Lionsgate Films, I think, got started that way. And sometimes it's like somebody worked their way up. And so sometimes a producer will sort of fall into this kind of general cultural idea that talent is magical. That talent is something that you just have. They just have it magically inside them. And they will insist that casting do what's called an open casting call, where they're like, I don't want you to just tell talent agents, I want you to tell everybody. I want you to see everybody, which means that one of those 9 offices, or one of the other offices in another market, is like, okay, so they have to hire a couple of extra assistants because they're going to be flooded with self-tapes that suck. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of tapes that suck. And they're going to have somebody's assistant's assistant wade through those tapes, and select some of them to go onto the assistant. And then that assistant's going to wade through those tapes and send some of those tapes to the casting director. And that casting director is going to wade through those tapes and send some of those to the producer. And the last time I talked to Tiffany Mack about self-tape, she's like, yeah, or open calls, she's like, yeah, we saw the people in town I thought were most appropriate for it. Then the producer insisted on an open call, so we saw 4,000 more people. And then the producers went back and booked one of the first 10 people who I'd selected, as our top 10. So in general, if you are a skilled actor, with professional experience, or who's been taking classes, or like if you know what you're doing, your self-tape's got a better shot, whether it's no matter what kind of call it is. An open call just means that like you're basically betting on chance that somebody's assistant's assistant will like pick your amazing self-tape out of the like mound of dross that is being submitted alongside. And it would be really easy, I think, for any of us to sort of go and find examples of where they cast somebody from a self-tape, like this person's never acted before, like, and probably if that person is lucky and they get a really good director, or if they really just are like the character, in some exact way, and they have a good director who can facilitate them, every once in a while that works out. But the reason that that's news is because it is wildly unlikely, and that triggers us into something called availability bias, which is the sort of heuristic, this kind of thing that happens in our brains where if we can think of an example of something, it feels like it must happen all the time. And I just have to tell you that the likelihood of your kid being cast on an open call is like, just buy lottery tickets instead. The if you would you recommend checking with your agent before submitting? No, if it's no skin off your back, like to submit, do. Like, I think that I've seen actors get really excited about open calls, right? So let's say Amelia's got is mostly auditioning for like 2 lines in Hallmark movies, and she's just like, and you're like, hey, this is what it's really like, but it's sort of like, I don't know, being like a second string player on a soccer team and only getting like a minute of game time, where it's like it might be hard to keep your kid excited about that. And so if you're like, what Amelia's going to get really excited, I hope you don't mind me using you as an example over and over again, Amelia. Is that okay? It's just like, because you're in my top row and I can see you. It's really easy. Right. Okay. My kid is getting tired of doing these like 2 lines. It's hard to keep them excited. But look, there's this open call that I found for them, or that their agent sent to them, or that we ran into, where they get to do 6 pages. And you know what? It's not going to hurt them to do a bad job, because there's going to be 10,000 people doing a bad job. And my kid's going to be so excited to have a real chance to audition for the next Harry Potter movie that they're going to like learn all the heck out of all those lines and like put lots of time into it, and maybe we'll even book a coach and work one-on-one with them. And like that grows you as an actor. It keeps you excited. It stays in the game. So you do those things. I think it's really fun to do those things. And I mean, God, I don't think there's anything wrong with buying a lottery ticket. I just wouldn't count on it, as a real strategy, like, or sort of know what your chances are and why you're doing it. Like, you should be doing it because it's fun, not because you're like, this is my shot. If I don't submit for this open call, my chances are ruined. Like, no, that's not actually logical. What's the makes the tape suck? Great question, Sasha. And I do want to talk about self tapes. Era and Andrea asked, when do you know your child is ready to get an agent? How much experience is needed? If they want to give it a go, try, follow their lead. You answered your own question, Andrea. Honestly, as long as you are having an open conversation with your talent agent, right? Like actors have all sorts of opinions about when somebody's ready and when somebody's not ready. And bear in mind that most teachers, are just actors, and they have not ever been professional marketers of talent. Certainly I fall into that category. Like, I've been doing this for 20 years. I have lots of like very secondhand exposure, but I've never tried to like hustle actors, as a talent agent. I've never been a producer. I've never been the one who's like, this is who I'm choosing and who I'm not choosing. And so anybody who looks you in the eye and says like, here's what you absolutely need to be ready, I can give you 6 counter examples. Right. So the approach that I usually take is, when as long as or your young actor, like if you're the actor, or if your young actor, can knows enough about the basic technical things and about acting that they can do 1 or 2 lines of dialogue, and have it look good and sound good and have fun doing it, they could do commercials. Most commercials are so dumb. I mean, think about actually watching commercials. Most of them are so dumb. Like, most of them are just like, okay, kid, come in, say yay, yay, okay, bye. And that's it. Like, but thank God that now, instead of like sitting in a casting studio for like 4 hours with your kid, while they're way, way behind and everybody's like hot and sweaty and cramped and like in stress, so your kid can go into the room and do that for 20 seconds. Now you can just tape that 20 seconds in your studio at home and be done. So that oh my God, that I hope that stays after the pandemic is over. because that's making parents' life a lot easier. Like the conversation I used to have with parents is like, hey, do you or somebody else, like, do you have a grandparent or a flexible job or something? Because the real pain in the ass is going to be that they're going to give you less than 24 hours notice, and it's going to take 4 hours out of your day to pick up your kid from school, drive them to the audition, sit there. They're going to go in the room for 30 seconds. They're going to come out. But like somebody's got to have such a flexible schedule they can take 4 hours out of their day on zero notice to go do this thing. And thankfully, that's mostly not the case anymore. Yes. All right, so again, low barrier for getting in, and also why Zoom classes are so effective, and why I always recommend to students that they do their setup for class like they would for their professional self tapes, so that when they do a professional self tape, they're like, oh yeah, I always set up like this, and their teacher can give them feedback on it on an ongoing basis. But then it just feels familiar, right? It's like they're going into a room they're used to. They're going into a setup they're used to. The okay, so how much experience is needed? A little bit, in order to do commercials, and then ideally enough experience, or enough sort of awareness as the parent that you can say, hey, I think my kid's probably ready for commercials, but we want to hold off on doing film and TV until they've had a little more practice, right? We don't want to just throw them into the gold team and like have them sink or swim. And if you're like, yeah, you know what, my kid's super confident, sink or swim, go for it. I've seen that gamble really pay off for people. And it's not my decision to make, thankfully. It's talent agents' decision to make. They're professional marketers. They're the ones who's like, you know what? Your kid looks so much like this, like whatever is most marketable right now, that they're going to get shots over and over again. So we can just throw them into the gold team over and over and over again until it works. Great. I don't know. Right, not my field of expertise, and I'm so happy to not be making those judgment calls, because I don't want to be assessing people based on how they look. That's the opposite of like being the kind of artist and being the kind of teacher I want to be. I want to be like, hey, let's make you the most skilled actor you can possibly be, because that's also a enormously marketable thing. Plus, it's fun. And those two things go well together in my world, and have kept me enjoying teaching for 20 years. Are there different tiers of talent agents? One of it's such a detailed question. Nemo, will you remind me to come back to it when I'm looking at the handouts? Because there are agents who only represent clients who have lots of credits. And you can find that out by getting a trial account on IMDb Pro, and looking at sort of the clients people have. Like if you look up an agent on IMDb Pro, which anybody can get a free 2-week trial to, and you can see that in the handout, and they have no clients there, probably means that all of their clients are for commercials, right? Because IMDb Pro only lists film and TV. So somebody can be an amazing agent and have 0 people on IMDb Pro. It just means their folks are not booking professional TV and movies. And then if you look at an agent on IMDb Pro and they've only got 20 clients and all of them have series lead, yeah, that person's not going to respond to your email. Like that's like pretty self-evident, but if you see that they've got like a few series lead folks, and then some folks who've got like mixed credits, and then they've got a couple of folks who have no professional credits yet, and none of them look like you, okay, maybe. Like this is the wonderful thing about looking for an agent for a young person, is you just never know when, right? Like every agent's going to try and have one girl who looks like Amelia, in her age category, sort of around, like 3 or 4 years, sort of around one side or the other. Except for the agents who are like, no, I don't rep kids at all, and those ones aren't on my list, the short list that I sent you. But the beautiful thing is that their actor who looks like Amelia may have just gotten too old. Right, or moved to another city, or their parents have moved away, or they've just quit acting because they've become a BMX racer, or whatever. So there's there are more openings for young folks, and it might just take time and repeated submissions before you get the kind of agent who's just like really rock star, who's like really knows what they're doing. But it's worth it. It's worth it because they're selective about who they sign up, because if you don't work, they don't eat. And so that selectiveness that makes it harder to get an agent at the very beginning also is an asset once you've got an agent. Once you've got an agent, you don't want them to like toss your kid for the next kid who looks like your kid but has slightly more credits. right? You don't want them to sign up like 3 more kids who look like your kid, but look like they might be more marketable. You want them to do the same thing that's annoying at the beginning, which is, I've already got somebody who looks like your kid. Sorry, like you seem amazing, but we've got somebody in that category, and we don't want internal competition on our roster because we're approaching this in a way that is sustainable. Now, there are agents that are just like, sure, I'll sign anybody. We'll just throw them at the wall and see who sticks. Those agents aren't on my list either. So the really, even if you just submitted one at a time to all of the agents that are on that list of whatever it is, 25 or 30 agencies, because some of those agencies have as many as like 15 agents. Like if you submitted to 5 a week, I did the math, it would take you most of the year. Right? Like no, that can't be wrong. That can't be right. The 5 a month anyway. Like what I'm saying is, if you just by the time you got to the end of that list, submitting to all of those folks, the one who you submitted to first would have forgotten you existed and would be seeing you as a brand new person, and you could just start again. Right? Like, and it might just take time. Especially if you have preteens, teens, I recommend basically foisting that work onto them, right? Because it is it is an investment of time and energy, to get somebody who's just like really good and is really excited about you, or is excited about your kid, and but it's not complicated, like it's not difficult. It just is a time investment. So it's a great place for actors who are in that like preteen teen category to start taking responsibility for that piece of their own career, and with your help, of course. Okay, I haven't even gotten into like cover letters and all these things. Do you need to choose different agent for commercials or film and TV? At a large agency, they might have different agents. They'd be like, okay, you're going to be repped by this person and this person. But most agencies will rep somebody for both, especially somebody who's just starting out. Okay, let's pop into breakout rooms and just give you 5 minutes there. And if you're like, I hate breakout rooms, fine, mute your video, and nobody will ask you questions there. Or I suppose you could stay here and chat with me. But what I would love is take 5 minutes and assign automatically. How many folks have we got here? We got 22. Okay. And I'll hop around from breakout room to breakout room, and I would love it, just to see what sort of patterns emerge. So if you could sort of elect one person, in your breakout room to just like type your top question or questions into the chat window, that'll be great, because then we'll have like shunk, all of these questions, and we'll be able to see also sort of without people being influenced by the other questions, if there are questions that that come up repeatedly. So. Great. Jump in there, and I'll hop around from room to room.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good, thank you. How about you?
Yeah, good. This is Era, and I'm Andrea.
Hi, Allison.
I'm Greg.
Hi, guys. I think we should mute ourselves, right?
Yes, please. And then if you could throw into the chat window sort of whatever the top questions were, I would really appreciate that. Hi, folks. Welcome back. If you could mute yourselves, please.
Mm-hmm.
And then throw into the chat window some of those top questions. Yep, good. Headshots look tight. Awesome. Could totally talk about that. Special skills, good. Yeah. Oh, good. I'm so happy that somebody's interested in that because it's I wanted to cover resumes in some detail. How do I know if my agent's the right one? Yeah, that is a great question. It's one of those simple questions with a very complex answer, I think. Right. Like, what is it like to be an actor and not live in a large city center? Well, more possible now than ever before. Resume, submit to an agent. Great. So just give another 30 seconds for folks to throw things in, and if they're and then I will jump into starting to look over the handout. Acting auditions. If you know nothing about acting, yes, Amber, I totally feel you on that one. Right, especially if your kids are really young, you end up as a de facto acting coach. And so I actually have a resource to share that that I didn't have the last time I did one of these parent workshops that I'm really excited about. I do go for neutral headshots, older, younger, sporty. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, and so it looks like resumes and headshots and demo reels are sort of present here. So instead of like me zipping through the handout, do we want to jump right into resumes and talking about that? Or does anybody have a strong objection to me doing that next? Going once, going twice. Okay, good. So if I quickly jump to the handout, that if you didn't see this, I will absolutely, so happy to send it again. Right, there's a list of talent agents. How do I know which one's the best for me? What do I send? Where do I send it? How long does it take? How long did they decide? What's the meeting like? What should I ask? What about extras or background agents? Resume template, right? So this is the top level thing that I think is worth looking at. Your resume is a marketing tool. It's not a list of everything you've ever done. It is a guide to help decision makers know what kind of auditions they can bring you in for and how to cast you. And at the beginning, your resume is something to help talent agents sort of very quickly look and get a sense of it, right? So format for the resume for the decision makers, and that includes talent agents if you're currently looking for a talent agent. Make it easy for them to see what they need in 10 seconds because that's how long they'll look at it. And really, like, they're going to look mostly at the picture. Initially a talent agent is going to be like, does this person look marketable? Basically, will I be able to get them auditions? Is there a chance of them getting work even if they have absolutely zero skill? And if they have a what that talent agent considers a marketable look, then that becomes possible. Now, if you show up and are a skilled actor, like, of course that's meaningful in their decision making. They're like, great, that's what we want. They just are in that kind of fear-based decision making where they're like, well, what if they suck? Could we still get them work? Like, is there still a chance that they'll be able to make some money and I'll be able to eat if I sign them up? And so if we go down here, and then this resume format I think is like a little bit too unclear. So let me show you the resume template that I built, and I will send this out to everybody who is on the invite list, and please feel free, to, oh, sorry, looking at the wrong thing now. There we go. Are you seeing this thing that says resume template on top? Okay, thank goodness. Right, so this is just that same information lifted, and then resume template. Boom. Okay, name, age, height, weight, eye color, hair color, parent name, and then the way that you want to format it is, basically the name of the movie, the size of the role, and then the director, and the production company. And so somebody asked, how do you do this if your child has no experience? I think one of the sample resumes that I'm going to show you has that, but basically if they have, then you just leave this off entirely, right? So if you need to, you leave both of these off and you just start with training, special skills, but you don't write a whole paragraph at the top about how amazing, perfect special flower your child is, because this isn't like, you can put that in the cover letter. but you don't put that on the resume, because the resume is a marketing tool, that people glance at quickly to go like, okay, this Amelia girl, does she have an experience or no? Oh yeah, looks like she's done a couple of school plays. And really 10 seconds, that's what they're going to look at. And that's why the size of the role is one of the things they're looking for. They're like, oh, has she played lead in school plays, or was she in the chorus? But they don't want to know the name of your character in Little Shop of Horrors, unless they're happen to you fluke out and they're a massive Little Shop of Horrors fan. You just put lead, or supporting. Can now, for if they're professional film and TV credits, then these are meaningful. Like these, each of these is basically like a pay scale category with the Union of BC Performers. So if it's a professional thing, well, then you have to write in whatever they booked you as. If it's an independent thing, and it's a little bit looser, where you're like, yeah, I was the lead. It was like I was there for every day of shooting, and it was me and 3 other people. Cool, you just put lead. Nobody's ever going to care anyway. Right? I do not recommend lying, because that kind of thing can come and you back and bite you. But it is okay, as long as you tell the truth, to present that truth in the best possible light. Right? Like, let's say that your kid, did a couple of elementary school plays, but it was years ago. Then right? A resume is just a marketing tool. It's not a chronological list. You should never put the year of a thing on there. So if they've only got, then you just put like The Grinch, The Wonder of Christmas, chorus, name of secondary school, or name of elementary school. You don't say on your resume, that was years ago, they played a sheep, they had no lines. You just list, yeah, they've done a couple of plays. Right? Like, you're just helping people say yes. You're helping people say yes to like meeting your kid or meeting you. And from there, like, yeah, you've got to be a skilled actor, and you've got to be able to like talk to a human and make eye contact. But like, that's really doable. This is just to get you in the door. So don't lie, but do present it in the best possible light. Training, just the name of the class, and then the name of the school or the teacher. And then I recommend writing something like ongoing, or this is where you might put years. You might put like, yeah, I was in this awesome class from this year to this year, and then this awesome class from this year to this year. If you're still going there, you put ongoing, because especially with newer actors, they're going to look at that, because they're like, cool, they've got this kind of look, but are they getting better, right? Like, are they doing whatever they can so that if I throw them into the gold team over and over again and hope that they hit, that they're doing what they can there. Now, I haven't been looking at the chat window, so let me pull up my chat window. What do we add in that section if they haven't done any work yet? Michelle and Lindsay, you literally delete that section entirely. If you don't have anything to put in a section, you don't tell them what you don't have, only tell them what you do have. Discussing of height ranges they can group people by. If you are sort of under 12, then you might want to massage your height down, a little bit, and from the dance world, interesting. The shorter is better, for children, almost always. Which is great, for the people who are like tired of being picked on for being short. They're like, ha, like, finally a place where I get to be awesome. Yeah, because they want to hire 12 to play 9 if they can. They rarely can, but they want to if they can, because the producers can work them longer hours, and then that person is like way more mature and easier to work with than any 9-year-old. No offense to the 9-year-olds who are watching, right? But they like, just like they want to hire 25 to play 18, or 16 if they can. Emily, who teaches the kids classes, only stopped auditioning for high school roles like maybe a year or 2 ago, and probably she still gets asked to audition for them occasionally, and she's in her early 30s. Homemade movies, skip them and include them in a special category. If you've okay, this is cheating but I would say, like you put them in film and television, you could put the name of the movie, you put the size of the role, and then you could put your dad's name, right? Like, or you would put YouTube, like name of director, like that you could do, right? So they were like, oh, look, she's done a bunch of YouTube movies. Right. So again, you just make it really easy to see, oh, like this is a bunch of stuff she's made by, for herself, but you present it in this like clean, stripped down, professional, like no apologies for it, but you're not exaggerating, you're not apologizing, you're saying, boom, yeah, she's made a whole bunch of movies that she was the lead in. We made them, we put them on YouTube. What age? The information about parents is not needed. Once you have a talent agent, the information about parents is not needed. If they're still a minor, then if you're submitting it to a talent agent, then you should include the information, the parent information. That's my opinion anyway. Now let me show you. Should YouTube links be included in the resume? No, absolutely not. Like they're never going to click on them. Don't clutter it up. Right, like if the YouTube footage is awesome enough that you can use some of it for a demo, then use some of it for your demo. But even then, you're going to send that as a file that is small enough that will fit right in their email, that they don't have to click on any external links, and you're only going to make it a minute long. Right? Remember that it's not a here's a record of everything I've done. It's a here's enough to interest you so that you will meet with me in person. Right? Like I just want to hook you enough that you want to know more. And if they get back to you and they're like, we'd love to see 10 more minutes of footage, great, send them all the YouTube links. Because once they're actually engaging with you, if they've asked for it, fantastic. Like that's really what you want. That's my opinion anyway. Let me open up some of those sample resumes and I'll show you what this looks like. Now, like I said, I will share these handouts with you. So you take screenshots if you like. I also am going to share a link to this recording. So I'm going to make it a private video on YouTube. So only people with the link will be able to watch it. But then you can go back and just like fast forward to this video. If you're like, man, what did he say about the blah, 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 blah? You can just fast forward to that spot and watch only those 2 minutes again. Hooray for Zoom! That was never possible before. So here we go, sample resumes. So resume template, here we go. So let's take it right from the top. Here is Josh Zaharia's resume. So this is Josh is with Lucas Talent. You can see his parent information is not on this because this is the resume his agent is sending to casting directors and then is seen by producers, right? Height, weight, eyes, hair, film, commercial, theater, training, right? So once it gets into theater, it's got like, honestly, I would say, I would recommend that he change this, but his agent has formatted it, not him. So this is one that's been formatted by an agent. Training, these should not be on here, in my opinion. Casting director workshops do not belong on a resume because casting directors are the decision makers and they don't care. Right? A casting director workshop is a paid showcase. Basically, they can sometimes be useful. If you don't trust your acting teachers, or if you just want to hear it from the decision makers, you want to hear them say, "Yes, this is how I make my decisions." But casting directors are not acting teachers, and so taking casting director workshops typically not a great way to learn how to be a good actor. If you are truly amazing, as like very, very skilled, and casting directors are not seeing you, like you just have a look that they're like meh, then they can be a good investment because you go in and they're like, oh my God, who is this Amelia girl? Why have I not been seeing her? She's so skilled. Even though she's like all weird looking, I don't care because she's so skilled. I want to see her, for my movies. Like then maybe they're a good investment. Right details, special skills. So here's another one. This one I think is like even cleaner. Right, this is the characters. Like Lucas and the characters are I think the two largest talent agencies in terms of like the number of agents that each of them has. Each of those agents still has their own individual reputation or relationships with those 9 casting directors. But just so that you know those 2 agencies, right? Film and television, right? You've just got the name of the project. DC Legends of Tomorrow, boom. actor, name of the director. Simple, simple, simple. Honestly, because this is not even this, I would change. I would put DC Legends of Tomorrow first, and probably it's down lower because they've got it in their head that it's chronological. But you basically just want people to look and go, "Oh, I know that show," in a glance. So if you have an actor credit on DC Legends of Tomorrow and a lead in a YouTube film that you made yourself, yeah, you put the thing that is the most recognizable first, because it's the thing, because you want people to look at it in 10 seconds and go, "Oh, cool. Oh, she's been hired before on a big money show." Like, and actor just means 6 lines or less. You can be booked as an actor even if you have no lines. The commercial, training, special skills, right? Simple list. Dung, 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 right? Just a list, right? So here's this is my client, Sarah. This is the resume that she formatted just like for herself. And so think about if you're a decision maker and you're looking at this, right? The name, the character's name, the production, the director, where it was, and it just, so you're looking at this and you're like, wait, what is she like? I don't really understand this, and I certainly can't look at it in 10 seconds and get a sense of what she's done. Film and television. Oh, okay. She's done a couple of student films, but they're formatted differently than this. It's weird. Training. It's all these like colored boxes. And she's actually done a bunch of professional ballet. Figure skating, gymnastics. Like, these things are useful, but they're buried. Right, there's an award here, fluent in Russian, GPA at school, not in any way relevant to a professional resume. Personal interests, unless these are skills, also not relevant. The way that I talk about listing skills, and I still stand by this, is anything you can do at a 3 out of 10 skill level, you put on your resume. Swimming, basic. Because somewhere there will be an audition where they're just like, cool, we just need somebody who can swim. Like, we need somebody who doesn't drown. And as long as you haven't lied, like, I have worked professionally as an actor 3 times, once as an actor role, and twice as like a highly paid special skills extra, because I can juggle, because I learned to juggle 3 balls in college, and they just needed somebody who could juggle. And I am so far from being a juggler. Like, we had to learn as part of like my first year theater school, and my body still remembers, and so I can do it for like 15 seconds as the camera pans by, because that's all I needed to do. But I probably made $4,000 or $5,000, from putting that on my resume. Juggling, basic. These are the weird things, that you get hired for as an actor, because they're production companies like, we need somebody who looks like this, who is like this, but also has this skill. And so you don't have to be an Olympic level anything to get hired, and you just have to be competent, right? 3 out of 10. So I worked with Sarah on her resume, and here's what we got, right? Details. Parents, I blocked out the parents' number. Film and television, choices, lead, supporting, right on top. If there's a film and television resume, film and television belongs on top, even if her theater credits are better, because they're not looking for theater. Theater is relevant, but the most important thing is film and television. It's commercials. It's like, I'm a decision maker. This is what I'm looking for first. Good. Oh, lead, supporting. VWS. This is probably a secondary school, and that's her being as sneaky about it as possible. Nobody cares. It's not ABC, it's not Fox Films. They get it. They're like, okay, it's a student film. But it looks clean and professional. And once it's got 3 or 4, professional credits over top of it, it'll just blend in. It'll just be padding. And again, DC Legends of Tomorrow actor would go over top of choices lead, because what you're really saying is, hey, I'm a safe risk. Somebody else who was making a show that cost $100 million, hired me, and so you won't be the first person to do that. Oh, got to open up this chat window again, because there's a couple of folks who put things in here. What do we got? Should you specify skills basic, advanced, intermediate, or just list? What if you don't know the director's name or title for indie student films? I'll bet you could find a director's name, or the title if you've got those indie student films, Nemo. Honestly, if it's so long ago that you just kind of guess, what their last name was. And if you don't know the director's name, just put the company, Capilano University, Kwantlen University, Vancouver Film School, or actually if it's that, just put VFS, again, because you don't want to advertise, like you're not concealing that it's a student film, but you are just making it as easy as possible for them to say, oh yeah, she's done some films. But what does she look like? They're going to spend 10 seconds on the resume if you do it right. Then they're going to look at your picture to see if they can like picture you as the character, or see you in their film, or imagine you making money. I think that basic, advanced, intermediate, that's my recommendation, right? So training, right? She listed her Russian classical ballet first, because that's like a big part of sort of who she is, and what she's done. Special skills: figure skating, basketball, soccer, volleyball, swimming. Fluent in Russian, blah 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 blah. And then her awards are these stars at the bottom. I think that on a resume, like a one-page resume, you don't necessarily have to put basic, intermediate, advanced. But it is good, useful for your agent to know. When they'll make you sign up for two different websites, Casting Workbook and Actors Access Breakdown Services. The casting workbook costs money. It's like $100 a year or something. And on there, you'll have to like list basic, intermediate, advanced for every single skill. But it's worth going through that. And it's a pain, but you've got like checking all the like million boxes and looking through like a million different sports, and but it's worth doing, again, because casting directors will sometimes search casting workbook saying like, okay, I need somebody in this age category with this hair color, with this skill, and boom, if your kid pops up, that can be helpful, right? So and so again, here is Zara's resume. Profile summary: Zara is a natural blah 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 blah. My kid is amazing and she's awesome, right? Like, and if I'm a decision maker, of course you think your kid is great, but what matters is not the parent's opinion about the actor. It's have other decision makers, decided to hire this person before, right? Strong ability to, right? Like, maybe these are all true. Actually, I know Zara. Like these are like true of her. But just saying it is not enough. Like what we need is, for a marketing tool, is show me that somebody else has hired them to do it before. Right? Experience, and you can see that. So this is Zara's resume without the formatting. This is Zara's resume with the formatting. Right? Boom, theater live performance. Boom, lead, UBC Med Theater. Sing, principal, Lights Up Theater. Christmas in Canada, lead, Carisdale Elementary. Training, 2019, musical theater, drama, on camera, drama school, children's choir. Special skills. Now this, I worked, with Zara's mom, to put this on, so you can see that, because this one was one that I did. We did put basic. She was, I guess she's really into contortionism. And I was like, wow, that's super specific and random. Is she really good at it? She's like, no, but she's really into it. I was like, cool, put it on a resume. If it gives them an opportunity to ask her about it, that's all you need. When they're like, really, you do contortionism? She's like, yeah. Like, she tries to stick her foot behind her head. Like, anything that gets them engaging with you is good. And so one of the things you'll see on my resume template is, if you have one random thing about you, like one like, and also can like wiggle ears independently, you can put that on a resume. Like, if that's your style to like, you be a little silly, you can put one thing like that on a resume, I think. Oh yeah, of course, anybody who needs to leave, please come and go, as you need. I know everybody's juggling life, and like I said, I will upload this so that it's available later. Is there a limit on how many special skills, so it doesn't look like? Yeah, I mean, I think that you should, for a resume, you should choose like 2 or 3 lines of them. So that for the talent agent, like, it is not a laundry list. When you go on Casting Workbook, you of course, like, you check every checkbox, that you can do at a basic level. Do it, totally. But I do think it is important to be somewhat selective. I don't, Carla and Sean, I don't think that there's like, here's the magic number. Just, I don't know, think about your kid. Like, what are the things they like doing? What are the things that they do well? Make sure that you put them on there. And then just like, sort of show of hands for the folks who have got video, how many of you have young people who already have talent agents, right? Like, so how many of you here to like talk about? So, okay, we got about 3, 4. Okay, good, great. So if you already have a talent agent, one of the things that I think is really worth thinking about. So remember that they're going to be very careful, when they are deciding who to submit, for film and TV auditions, especially. For commercials, they don't have to be careful because commercials are so much about look, and that's where new people all like cut their teeth, and so they don't have to be careful with commercials. But they do have to be careful with film and TV because they want to build their own reputation for, only offering clients who are like options that are really viable. Right, like if I'm a talent agent and every time something comes up, I'm like, here's 6 people, maybe, then I get one reputation with those like 9 casting directors. But if I'm like, well, I'm not going to submit anybody for this one because I don't have anybody perfect. Yes, but when I do, they're really viable. Then if Andrea's my casting director, ta-da! And then when I send her, my people, she's like, oh, of course I'm going to look at Michael Bean's submission, because he always sends me really like interesting, viable options. Right, where instead of like, oh yeah, Michael Bean always sends me 6 people, and like maybe they're competent or appropriate for it, or maybe not. Like he's just clearly very excited to submit all of his people to me, which like throw spaghetti at the wall agent is going to do. And that's why I've left those ones off the short list of agents that I sent you. Right, because you want the ones who've developed, who are being careful and who are developing those relationships. Like Vancouver's a relationship city in terms of when it comes to casting, because they're only those 9 offices, right? And if you burn those 9 relationships, like your people are just not getting seen. Now if you're an actor, you can burn all 9 of those people as long as you don't actually hurt yourself or them, because they're going to forget you exist 6 months from now. Right? Like you can go in and be like, oh, forgot my lines. Oh, panic. Ah, ah! And a self tape, they won't even remember it because they're only going to watch 30 seconds of it. And even if it happens in person, 6 months later, they'll be like, who? Oh yeah. But the likelihood they'll remember is low. Right? It reflects on the talent agent, more than it reflects on you, I think, initially. So just thinking about that. Okay, so back to like the folks who already have agents. One of the things that you can do is, and do this selectively, say like every 2 weeks or every month, you can send 30 seconds to a minute of video of your kid doing something awesome. Right, so you can just keep giving them little clips of like, hey, here's here's Era like doing a like jump on her skis where she like lands on her face in a snowbank and everybody laughs, right? Like then the agent's like when they get a skiing audition, they're like, oh yeah, I remember, like Era skis because I saw her like do that jump and bail and like fall on her face and laugh. That you are teaching them who your kid is. So one of the things that I periodically hear from parents is like, I haven't heard from my agent for a year, or like I only hear from them for auditions and I never hear from them otherwise. And it's like, well, if you want that working relationship, one of the things you can do is you can invest in it, or even better, you can get your kid to invest in it, right? Like if your kid is old enough that they are sending emails, then the email saying like, here's a video of like 30 seconds of me doing something awesome from class, coming from an 11 or 12-year-old, I think is more likely to get watched than coming from the 11 or 12-year-old's mom, typically. Right, like and so sometimes I'll encourage students to think of it as like one more social media account, just one that you have to be very careful to only post very short things to every once in a while. But you are teaching them, here's something awesome I did in class. Here's a character that's a really good fit for me. Here's me, doing this skill that I do really well that maybe you saw on my resume, but you've never seen me do. And I think that kind of ongoing investment helps build that relationship. And each talent agent is so different, right? Like there's actually nothing wrong with a talent agent who you only ever talk to socially once a year on Christmas when you like send them a Christmas card. right? Like some talent agents are like strictly business and that's their jam. And if they're doing it well and they have those relationships and they're helping you get auditions, great, then they're fine. Now, if you're like, but I feel weird about that, I want to be able to ask them personal questions and get their feedback on my headshots and like get them to help me with my feelings. Okay, there are some talent agents who will do that. They tend, and if you need somebody, or if you want somebody who is a talent agent who is more personal, and that's their style, they're a marketing professional. Like that's then you absolutely can find somebody like that. Right. So you just think about what kind of marketing professional you want to work with long term, and and then which is why you submit to multiple agencies, and you try and meet with multiple agencies, because like with any professional, like you don't want to go with like the one person who got back to you, because the risk is that even if they're awesome and perfect for you, that a year later you're going to be like, are they really the right one? And I hear that from parents all the time, where they're like, is my aide like, I'm getting auditions, but right, that it becomes a trust issue because it's like they didn't have choice at the beginning. They just went with the one person who they heard from. And so the parent never really fully trusts the agent, and then that's really the barrier to that relationship. Right? Yeah, if you don't trust your agent and you don't trust that they're submitting you or submitting your kid, and like trying to get you work to the best of their ability, then that's a problem. And it is something that you can do something about, either by having a conversation with them like you would have with a marketing professional, meaning like not about your feelings, but about like, how is this work relationship going, and like, do you have what you need to market, my kid, and am I doing, or is my kid doing what they need, to like help be competitive, when you just sort of huck them into the gold team with no warning. And it is possible to build those trust relationships. Like if you're like, yeah, but I like it's not there now. It could be. Like, and if trust is really broken with you and your agent, yeah, there's nothing wrong with looking for a new agent. Like remember, there's 20,000 actors. Folks with agents are like, but like, if I switch agents, like, won't casting directors like think that I'm flighty or something? That would assume they remembered you existed at all, which is unlikely. And so they're not like, they're going to be looking at your picture. They really are probably not going to care whose name is next to your picture as it listed as a talent agent, unless it's somebody who they have a very close relationship with. Like, yes, if somebody signs with you, like Red Management, for instance, is an agency that is extremely selective, very, very selective, like only has mostly clients who work a lot, because it's basically like it's top agents from 4 different agencies that all bailed from their agencies about 6 years ago to start this new management company. So if somebody's signed with them, if someone's like, oh wow, you're with Murray, because Murray used to be one of the top guys at characters, and and now he's over at Red, and if somebody signs with Murray, then yeah, casting director is going to be like, oh wow, Murray signed you? He never signs anybody. Like, okay, sure, I'll see him. I'll see you for the audition. And then if they see you and you do unskilled work, they're not going to see you again, for like 6 months or 2 years, until they've forgotten you exist. But like having an agent who has clout can maybe get you like a bump initially, but then everything after that is about how you play. Right? It's the sort of, there's this magic idea that uh, that like talent is either a thing that you have or don't. And I talk to students about this in class a lot, and I actually like, I kind of love this sort of reframe on it, which is that like we should let decision makers keep thinking that. Right, that we want producers and directors to think that talent is a magical thing that you have inside of you, but the actors and everybody involved with the actors' lives just need to know that, like, I don't know, it's like soccer. Like, the more you practice, the more skilled people think you are. And yeah, are there aptitude? Sure, but definitely aptitude is not as much of a straight line with acting as it is with soccer. With soccer, we could go like, here's the muscle groups. With acting, what? We're gonna go like, well, you're just really good at feeling things. right? Like everybody's got some of that. There's some things that they feel more deeply or more intensely. There's some things they're more engaged in. There's some things that like where who they are as a person lines up with the stories they like to tell, right? So is there aptitude in acting? Yes, but it's much more fluid. You know, most the basic thing, you know, and of course I'm biased. Like I'm an acting teacher. I run an acting school. I've been doing that for 20 years. So like take it with a grain of salt because it's me, right? But the basic thing is like how much you practice, and that comes down to how much you love it, right? Like if an actor at any age just genuinely loves what they're doing, they're going to practice more and they're going to accumulate more skill over time, and then other people will think they're magical and they'll be like, wow, oh my god, Jess, you are this magical person who just has magical things inside you, talent, amazingness. And Jess's job, if I say that to her and I'm a decision maker, is to look me in the eyes and say, thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you. That really means a lot. You know, and to not say, no, you know, I don't know. I feel weird about this all the time. It feels really uncomfortable for me. And I've been training really hard for the last 7 years. And the last 19 auditions I didn't get, because all of those things are probably true. But don't tell me that if I think you're magical and amazing. You know, if I'm like, wow, talent, then I think that, you know, our job is to be like, thank you very much. And if that's uncomfortable, cool, suck it up. You know, like right, like get practice with people telling you're amazing. I don't know, like get your parents to like look you in the eyeballs and be like, you're amazing, until you can like just say thank you without like, you know, cracking a smile or being weird about it, something. Right. And it's a really interesting balance to strike, you know, because I'm not suggesting that actors should be entitled, you know, should be like, yeah, I'm amazing, and so everybody I deserve things, and I'm gonna be mad when they don't come my way. That's not going to work out for you well in film and TV in the long term. You know, I'm not even talking about as a human, but in film and TV, where like 90% or 99% of all the auditions that you submit a tape for, you're going to never hear anything back. You know, if that's the way you orient to it, that will feel bad. You know, whereas if you do it because it's fun to do them, then you might be just as excited about number 100, even if the first 99 you never heard back. Like if you can, but if you enjoy the process enough to do 100 in a row, yeah, the 100th one's going to be a lot more skilled. And I've just seen that over time. You know, that students who come in, you know, and some part of acting comes effortlessly, or they have just like this incredible look, like they look like the young version of somebody who's like really hot, you know, A-list Hollywood right now. Like, will they get a bump in opportunities right at the beginning? Absolutely. Sure. You know, like, does it last long term? No, not in my experience. You know, like what matters long term, you know, is if somebody can like keep loving it enough to keep doing it. Yeah, and over time, the skill is acquired in that way. Nemo asked about DaCosta. DaCosta, you know, is I don't actually know much about them. I know that they were based in Toronto. They just opened an office here. They're the only agency that I know about that reps people for professional theater, right? So if you've got a kid who's like a singing, dancing superstar, they're one of the agencies to look at. Because they rep people because if you wanted your kid to be submitted not just for films here, but for Matilda the next time they produce it in Toronto or Montreal, like they're the agency that would be able to do that, and all other agencies will not do that. But so that's the only the reason you would look at that particular agency. Do they have a rep with local film and TV casting directors as like top tier? I don't know. Not to the best of my knowledge, but also my knowledge is well, obviously at least a year out of date at the moment because pandemic, but you know, a couple of years out of date. Yeah, I would say so. I don't know if they're sort of top tier right now. Whew, let's go back and look at some of these. Right, so I've talked about resumes. Okay, so headshots and demos. You know, we've got what, like 35 minutes left. I can talk a little bit about them, but I also first want to introduce you to a resource. If you're like, man, I wish there was a place where I could go and hear Michael Biehn talk about this stuff a whole bunch more. Well, there is. You're in luck, people who ask the imaginary question that you didn't ask. The last year around this time, I started a project called myfreeactingclass.com. And this is still happening. probably, this is still happening 3 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from 4 to 4:30. They're free online acting classes that are available to anyone. It's a mix of kids and teens. Most people watch them on YouTube these days. Right, they all get posted after class. Leanne's classes on Mondays don't get recorded, because she was like, it's my name, like these YouTube videos are showing up when people Google my name, and I don't want that. So hers are, we call it straight talk, because it means that she can say whatever she wants to about agents and casting directors and anything. It won't be recorded. So, but then on Tuesdays, I've been doing on-camera skills and self-tape review. And Wednesdays, I do acting technique and special guests. So one of the things that I've been doing on Tuesdays is I've been reviewing people's self-tapes. So if you currently have a talent agent and you're like, man, we never get feedback on self-tapes, send them to me. As long as you're okay with me reviewing them in a YouTube lesson, and of course, I will not show the slate, and if there's identifying features and you've signed an NDA, probably don't send them to me. But as long as they don't make you sign an NDA, this educational use, totally legit. And then I'll give you feedback, and I'll go over the tape on the lesson. You'll be able to watch them on YouTube. So this is myfreeactingclass.com. And then there's the video archive. So I've been doing this for about a year. There are 165 of these videos now. And so if you go on here, you just click here, video archive, you'll get to this page, decision makers. So there are multiple casting directors who in the depths of lockdown last year came and gave workshops for us for free. So instead of paying money for a casting director workshop, you can just watch the recordings. Jackie Lind, Chris Wozniacki, Annalise Tilling, Erin Lally, Tiffany Mack, Judy Lee, right? That's 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 9, right there. Annalise and Erin are fairly new, so I'm not sort of including them in the 9. Director, there's a producer in there. If you're like, okay, I've had one producer come in as a guest because both of her kids took my classes back in the day. She was a great guest. Highly recommend watching this. And then there's an older one with Tiffany Mack. There's a bunch from a casting director named Stuart Akins from years ago. And then down here, guests, with fantastic bunch of guests, including a psychiatrist and a teacher of psychiatry whose daughter took our classes for a long time, who's run audition anxiety workshops. So if you're an actor watching this, or if you're a young person and gets really nervous about auditions, it might be worth watching this one. Also, I just got to plug Carrie, because Carrie is just like, I love her so much. One of my favorite artists and deep teachers. She teaches the film and TV acting program at Studio 58 Langara, which is with the National Theatre School as one of the best acting programs in Canada right now. She teaches their film and TV acting. Actors, my friend Olivia, who's was on HBO or is on HBO right now, a stunt coordinator, voice coaches. But then down here, we've got why branding matters. These ones are mostly me. Once we get into the acting, this is me talking about acting, and doing exercises with folks. Why branding matters, how to make a professional film and TV resume, which will just be review for you guys. But there's also one about headshots and demo reels, how to get a talent agent, goal setting, actors access, more branding, background work. Anyway, I could spend ages going through this, but there's 165 videos there. If you want more information than I can cover, that's where you can go find it. And I hope some folks show up for the workshop, because we have multiple parents. Oh, Amber, previously you asked what if I end up how do I help my kid be a better actor when I'm not taking acting classes? You could watch some of those videos, or you could come. We actually have folks coming from to the lessons from Trinidad and Tobago and the UK, and from the States. And there's a mom who's in the UK who has 2 young kids who shows up for almost every lesson. She's not an actor at all. She's just in that needing to do self-tapes for her kids all the time and wanting to grow her own skills and ask those questions voice to voice. So anybody get the handouts from those my free acting class videos? Nemo, there are some, if you see a video and there's a handout that I haven't sort of put a link to, then by all means, just send me an email and I'll send it to you. But most of them I'm like showing links, or I'm showing videos, or there aren't really handouts for those because they're 30 minutes, mixed age, mixed group. Right, I've had kids as young as 7 show up pretty regularly, and then like I said, I have parents show up for them. Whew. Okay, so demo footage, is kind of falls in with some of the stuff I'm going to say about self tapes. But the short version is, if it's a demo to send to a prospective talent agent, use the footage from class if you can, like just because you've got access to all of it, but edit it down and to the part that only makes your kid look awesome. Right, like any of the part that's them stretching or them like growing, don't show them that part. Show them only the part that's awesome. Give them 30 seconds of one scene and 30 seconds of another scene. And like I said, if they email you back like, oh, we'd love to see 6 minutes of footage, great, send them 6 minutes. But initially, ideally, you want them to be clips that they're small enough that you can include them directly in an email, so that it is one click. All they have to do is press the play button. If they have to click to an external link, like with any sort of email marketing, you will lose some percentage of people. Talent agents can get 50 plus emails a day from parents, who want their kids to be stars. And so and of course, just the fact that you're here for this workshop, means that you are like a huge cut above parents who are like, my kid's amazing and I want them to be a star, right? Because you actually care about sort of learning about the process, and how to present. But just know that you are guilty of the sins of every parent who came before you, as far as the agents are concerned. Like, it's going to take time for them to be like, oh, actually, Carla and Sean are like the cool ones, because initially they're going to be like, oh my God, what if they're not the not cool ones? And it's really hard for them to tell that by email. But one of the ways you can do it is you can make it really easy for them to read your resume. You can keep your cover letter super short. You can remember that you're just trying to show them enough of your kid that they're like, yeah, I want to make 10 minutes out of my life to meet this kid by Zoom, right? Just enough to hook them into wanting to know more. Because it's tempting otherwise, to approach it from an emotional place and be like, here's everything about how amazing my child is. Please, 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 please. So demo footage, my recommendation, and you can use footage from class, like I said, especially if the setup is enough, makes them look reasonably good. 30 seconds of this, 30 seconds of that, minute of this, minute of that. But like maximum 2 minutes, and really, like, I would say 1 minute, because they're not going to watch all of it anyway, probably. Right? They're just going to watch like a little bit of it because those 50 submissions a day go along with the like 500 plus emails that they are dealing with every day, right? Because they're constantly hustling to casting directors, submitting people for every breakdown. They've got 100 clients on their roster. Like a top tier agent, like one who only represents people who work a lot, might have 20 clients. But when you think about 15%, like if you're only taking 15% of what people make, those 20 clients have to work a lot for you to make a decent living. So most agents will have a roster between like 50 and 100. And an agent who represents commercials or has a roster for mostly commercials might represent more, right? Like might have more like 150 or maybe even 200, because they're mostly trying to cover like, I need somebody who looks like this. I need all these different sort of at least visible ethnicities, or like I need to find a better word for that. But basically, like in the world of film and TV, it's still pretty stupid, in terms of like, actual ethnicity. It's more like, do you look like you could be from there? Okay. Is the way it normally works. So I have a client who's like, I don't know, I think her mom's Mexican, and she's gone out for Filipino, like she's gone out for Indian, she's gone out for Native American, like they're just like, yeah, we're kind of not sure. So, okay. Right, we're still a little bit in that world. Like that's definitely shifting some, and there's sort of political will, on the casting side or on the producer side to move towards more like the actual representation, but it's very, very slow progress. Um, it's mostly at this point, it's mostly about like, do you look like you could be from there? The little digression. Um, the the other thing, oh, headshots. So if you went to the headshots lesson, and maybe let me just pull this up. Rocket Repro. I think that's right. Oh, maybe it's .com. So headshots initially, there's this real question, of is it important to get professional headshots before getting a talent agent? Like you will need professional headshots to send out to casting directors because the system that they use when talent agents submit actors, right? So those 200 agents, each of them sends somebody and lots of them send like 2 or 3 people. What that means is casting directors, these 9 people, are looking at 50 pictures this size on a page. And so if yours is like meh, when they're looking at it at this size, if there's something about the agent or the skill or the like, you just grab them, they might look at it anyway, but once it's this size, having something that looks consistent with this is what a professional headshot looks like is just important. Like it just is, and it sucks how expensive professional headshots are. Like you can expect to pay, sort of kind of minimum $250, $300, and like to somewhere like $500, $600 for professional headshots. If you want to wait until you've got a talent agent to do that, you totally can. If you're like, I want to wait until I have a talent agent and I want to get them to like recommend some people and back me up, totally can do that. If you're a young person, if you're an adult looking for a talent agent, you got to have professional headshots or they just won't look at you. There's just too many adults submitting. But for young people, agents know that they change all the time. So you just take a picture of them, that looks really good, but actually like them, with a neutral background and nobody else in the shot, and you can send that. Right. And you might want to include in the cover letter, like, we want to get professional headshots. We just want to sign with somebody first. You could do that. I definitely have had some agents and some parents say that you are more likely to get a like that you're more likely to get agents interested in you if you have professional headshots before you get a submit for a talent agent. Like I think that that's probably true. Like just in the broadest sense of like, is it more likely? Like some percentage more likely? Yes, probably. Is it enough more likely that it's worth spending $600, especially if your agent's like, actually, I don't like these headshots. Now you need to go get new ones. That's a judgment call you got to make, right? Because that is a real possibility. Like they're a marketing professional, and you got to make sure that they've got, they have what's going to help them, market you appropriately as an actor. And they might say these are beautiful pictures, but they are not appropriate for the way that we are going to market your kid. Like you are going to need to go get new headshots. Probably they won't say that, but it is possible. And so that's just the chance you're taking if you get them, right? Like that's the pro con, of getting them before you get an agent, in my opinion. Now, the Megan asked, is there a list of people who do professional headshots in the pamphlet? There isn't, because okay, and this is where I have like a personal feeling about this, is that like lots of headshot photographers approach me as an acting school and offer kickbacks. And I feel bad about that. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna like refer people to you and have you give me money like that. I don't want that. Like that feels that does not feel ethical, And so I've defaulted to like, well, I'm not going to recommend anybody then, which I know is like not super helpful. So I will tell you, like, I can tell you as an actor some of the people that I've had take my headshots, because those people I have actual experience with. I've had Kevin Clark take my headshots. I've had Carolina Turek take my headshots. Love Carolina's photos. Expensive, but worth it. I had a guy named Shimon Carmel take my headshots. He's kind of a dude, but like, man, does he take good pictures. So it depends if you can handle somebody who's kind of doodly. Shimon, if you're watching this, it's not a criticism. Like you just are. He's not going to watch it though. And then but all 3 of those are like, in the more expensive tier of headshots. So here's the resource that I actually recommend using. So Megan, if you've got like a little bit of time and you want to actually like sort of put some time into figuring out who's the right headshot photographer, here's what I recommend is you go to, and hopefully this is loaded now. Yeah, excellent. There's a place in town called Rocket Repro. And Rocket Repro is where professional headshot photographers all used to have their photos printed, and still many of them do. And so rocketrepro.com, it's in Gastown, they have a gallery. And if you go to the gallery, then you can see, look, Gordon Ramsay, taken by Helen Tansey, photographer. Bill Marchant's Shimon photo, that's Shimon Carmel. Aaron Douglas, Dennis Illick. Aaron Karpuk, Gordon Dumka. So not only will like 5 minutes here show you what professional headshots should look like, which you can think about if you're like taking a picture at home, but also because, right, there's Carolina Turek, right? I click on that, boom, it takes me to her website. Right, so you can just look through their galleries, of which there are, 8 of them. Nicholas Seiflo, I think he hasn't been shooting for a while, right? You can look through these until you see somebody who looks like your kid, or looks like a shot that you're like, yeah, like that. That's the energy I want. That's the kind of shot I want. Or that person made this person who looks like my kid look amazing. I wonder what their rates are. Because probably you will find then several options. And again, if you wanted to, like, it would take you 5 minutes, 10 minutes of extra work, and then you would have a couple of options to choose from instead of just asking me and taking the first person whose name I told you because you didn't want to look. So that's my advice. And I'll just put it right in here to everyone, which is rocketrepro.com. Boom. So that's where you would go to find a whole whack of headshot photographers, because also there's people entering and leaving that market all the time, and especially the new people. Some of them are amazing, but they don't have a reputation, so they're cheap, right? And that's where you can go and get like real good headshots for like $150, $200. If you are willing to look through and find like which people are doing like really top tier headshots that look just like the best headshots, from Carolina and from Kevin Clark and from Shimon, like which ones are doing headshots that look like those, but they're new. Those are the people you want. And if you're like, I don't have that time, but I have the extra money, great, awesome, do that. Like, not a big deal. Headshot background forecasting. Nemo, I'm not sure I understand your question. In fact, I actually don't understand your question. Oh, you mean like, should there be stuff in the background? No, you want it to be like, what color? Yes, okay. The neutral, right? Like you basically want it to sort of showcase you, and you'll see that in a lot of those photos, like the sort of neutral colors, but don't take my word for it, because that's not my field of expertise. Like, I always love saying like, I have an opinion about everything, especially because I've been doing this for 20 years, but there are very few things that I actually have expertise in. Training actors, tons of practice doing that. Marketing actors, I have opinions, but I've never done it for work. Right? Like talking to actors about getting talent agents, yeah, that I've done tons of. I think you're going to talk about setup for home studio. We're interested to hear about that. Yes, thank you. Perfect. Like that is a fantastic transition, Lee and Joanne. I appreciate it. And so let me show you what I've got first. So previously I was using like a blue backdrop, and a ring light, and I have shifted to using just a neutral wall in my house. What I have here is what is called a ring light. It's an LED light. This one happens to be like on a very large tripod, so I can adjust it to standing or not. So I think it was like $140. You can get an inexpensive ring light for as much as for like $35. They give the sort of best eye light. They also don't have light bulbs that will break, and so especially if you have little kids or you need to like tuck it in a storage closet or something, it's a great investment. Like lighting is the most important thing for a self-tape. If, for instance, if I am side lit like this, people will think that I'm not as good an actor, like just hands down, because there is no light reflected in my eyeballs, and I'm showing you with my messy background, and with my bad lighting that I don't know what I'm doing, and so that's what somebody was like, what makes a tape suck? This. I can be doing the most amazing, deeply passionate, super engaged acting. And if you're lucky, the director or the casting director will see that anyway and be like, we love the work, like, let's bring them in. But that's only if you're lucky. If you're not lucky, they'll look at it and they'll be like, it's just messy and it's poorly lit, and this person really know what they're doing. And their opinion of the setup will influence their opinion of the acting, right? It's a halo effect, I think that's called. Which also means that if you have an amazing setup, like, it's possible that they will think you are more amazing. But certainly lighting makes all the difference. Like, it's really like students of mine who get a ring light, and finally like find a neutral backdrop and get the camera level with their eyes. Right? If I shoot up on myself, I see this a lot. I see this a lot. All this space over the head. What I need is medium close up. Right? Just head and shoulders. Actors, especially your young people, they'll always want to be back here because this is more comfortable for them. But from back here, you can't see my eyes as much, and you can't see as much of what I'm feeling. So what you need is a medium close-up, and again, those free acting class lessons, there's tons, like framing, there's whole lessons on framing, like you can go in as deep as you want, but like really, it's not rocket science. Head and shoulders, right, top of your head down to just below your armpits, neutral background, something to shine light in your eyes. And I don't have it set up right now, but actually, like, oh, here, let me just bring it over. Before I got the ring light, here's what I was using. And this totally works. I took an absolutely ordinary desk lamp. I pointed it at my face. I took a piece of paper and clothes pinned it over top so that it wasn't as like bright in my eyeballs. That's diffusion. Right? Like you would have on a fancy film set where they'd be like, look, can we get some diffusion? Yeah, I put some diffusion on my light. I shined it at my eyeballs. It was fine. Like, as long as there's light reflecting your eyeballs, you look alive. It looks like you're feeling more. Really, really important. Also, if you don't have a ring light, but you have some flexibility in your house, and there's just a blank wall somewhere that's opposite a big window, probably that'll be even better than a ring light. It means you have to shoot in the daytime. And it means if you're in direct sunshine, then you'll get like, and that can be a problem. It's just, lighting is your best investment, and then just find a blank wall. I'll show you what it looks like with the fabric backdrop. I used to recommend them. Honestly, at this point, I'm just like blank wall, like best bet, like neutral color. If it's white, it'll wash them out some, but I honestly think that that's better because you just don't want anything distracting. Because if I even turn my setup a little bit and that's in the corner of the frame, whether you want to or not, your eyes are going to keep going there. It's going to keep going there. And then is it okay if I use some of you as demos? Right. So if Carla and Sean, basically if Carla is acting, I'm going to be looking at all the cool stuff behind her head. I'm going to be like, wow, there's a clock and a globe and like, that's what I'm going to be looking at. And am I only going to be looking at that? No, but I'm not going to be able to stop myself. I'm going to be like, oh, wow, like, look at this cool piece of art behind Megan. And I'm going to be wanting to look at Megan's face, but what's going to happen is my eyes are going to keep going to the piece of art. So that's why I'm saying blank wall, if you possibly can, with a window in front of you. Now look what happens when I turn off my eye light. Right? Is it terrible? No. But I don't look as alive. I don't look as engaged. I don't look as pretty. And does that matter for film and TV? Yes, it still does. Like, it's film and TV. I'm sorry. Like, it's shallow, terrible industry. Like, thank God now they will cast people who look like all sorts of different things. But is it still kind of have an element of shallow terribleness? Of course. Like if your kids fall in love with the shallow, terrible industry, well, at least the art that is ultimately behind it, is like deep and rich, and like has thousands of years of storytelling tradition behind it. Right, like this, I think actors have an important place in the world, and then the technical parts of it, we just game the system to make ourselves look as pretty as possible, and that's all we can do, right? Like, once you got the lighting set up, just don't obsess about it too much. The other thing in terms of my setup is I do not have a fancy stand for my laptop. I have a chair with a box of socks on top of it, then my laptop stand, and then my laptop. I will sometimes tape auditions with my laptop. These days, most of the time, I use my phone, because my phone has a better camera and a better microphone than my laptop. And most ring lights will have. Oh, I probably need to turn this off, or you'll just be blinded. Most ring lights have in them a stand for a phone, right? So you can make your life super easy there. The other advantage of taping with your phone is then you can get a coach, and like put the coach on the iPad or the laptop, and then tape with the phone, beside them. So you can, sort of get all the advantages of taping in a studio, in that you can get somebody else to sort of like look at it and give feedback while you tape. Which I've been doing a lot of audition coachings like that, and I think most teachers and coaches have in the last year. So that's my recommendation, is basically that you just use your phone. Now, one of the things about using phone is that, especially if you're the one reading, sound is another thing that is super important. So lighting, most important. Lighting, neutral backdrop, medium close up. If you do those things, cut above. Like that used to jump you above 90% of videos. I would say people are catching on. So now it's like you're in the top half if you do those three things. Sound is the next thing. And what very often happens is, because especially on a phone, they're set up to pick up the sound from whoever is closest to them, is that the actor will be just like a meter away, but the parent will be right behind the phone. And so what it looks like is like, I'm the actor, I'm doing my lines, and then my mom's really loud, and then I'm the actor and I'm doing my lines, and we can really just mostly hear your mom. It's so just if you're the reader, you've got to keep your voice way down, or even better than that, just like move like 2 or 3 meters straight back. Right, like just be further away from the recording device, than the person you're talking to, so that they can be heard better than you can. Right, so there is a handout. I did a workshop for a bunch of administrative professionals in the fall. Incidentally, if any of you are with corporations and are like, wow, we've got all this money and we'd love to have somebody come talk to us about Zoom, I'm available, just saying. Anyway, I never do corporate work. I did this workshop in October and I'm like, you want to pay me what? Okay, yeah, I talk about this to people all the time. So here we go. These are my workshop handouts. So framing, we talked about camera angle, right? So if the camera's shooting like up at a high angle or down to low angle, right? I've already got lots of forehead. This gives me lots more forehead. Eye line, which is the line between your eyes and what you're looking at. Students are talking about this in class all the time, but they, like, I don't know, especially the younger ones, they're not holding on to all those details. If you look directly at the lens, it looks very odd. It's very startling because we don't see that in film and TV. So it's really important that the eye line be very close to the camera, but not directly at the camera. So if they're on Zoom, then I say, great, get out of full screen, drag the person off to one side. If they're not on Zoom, then I would say, then I say, put a Post-it note in the corner of your laptop. Or if the phone's turned towards you so that you can see the video, like phone's on one end, look at the record button. Right, so very close to camera, but not directly at the camera. And if you're the parent, just make sure to get your eyes about where the camera is and just that much off to one side. To help them out, right? And nobody will know that you're 3 meters back if you get the eye line right. So if we go back to here, lighting, I light eyeglasses. Oh, ring lights, terrible for eyeglasses. But next time you're at a mall, go to Claire's, get a $6 pair of glasses from the rack, take a screwdriver and knock the lenses out. That's what I do with my auditions. You can see if I put these on right now, tons of glare. But in film and TV, they actually, like, if you next time you watch Harry Potter, you can try and spot all the times where his glasses have no lenses in them. It's most of the time. the white balance, background, da, da, da. Let me, right, so this is framing, right? Big close up, medium close up. This is where we want your auditions, right? Which is how you're seeing me right now. Top of my head, no space over my head, just down below. Eye line, right? Too high, too low, too off to the side. I guess see a lot of people's ears, in self tapes where they're like, "I'm talking to somebody, it just feels more comfortable." It's like, yeah, I get it. Like looking out towards the camera initially feels uncomfortable, but also it's what acting is, so you're gonna have to get used to it. Shot angle, lighting. We talked about this. Eye light, right? So if the light source is behind the person, none. To the side, boom, in front of, and so we want the light source in front. The light reflecting the eyeballs. Background, right? The more confusing the background. Now, again, I used to recommend these, like a lavalier mic, but I actually have two of these that plug into my phone, and I got a. Like I have an older phone too. I think I can't remember, iPhone 10 or something. No, earlier than that. I mean, iPhone. Oh yeah, oh right, the X, something like that. It's a couple of models ago. It wasn't new. It's not fancy, but the microphone on it is better than this one. Right. The only reason that you would get a lavalier mic, I think, is if your setup is such that the camera has to be quite a ways back from you, and so the audio is always terrible. And then you would want something that you could like bring the microphone over close to you. Probably wouldn't want to pin it to you because then, especially if it was a kid, because every time they moved, it would be like, and you don't want that in tapes either. A couple of ring light options, right? This is, I think these are $25 on Amazon. It doesn't adjust up or down, but whatever. Like if you're doing a like stack of storage boxes anyway, it'll hold your phone, it'll give you an eye light. It's truly all you need. This is the like big fancy one that I use when I'm taping my auditions because I don't want to have to fiddle with a whole bunch of stuff when I'm standing or sitting. I just leave it set up in the corner of my room and I just drag it over to this blank wall and I'm like, I'm ready to go. And that makes me happy. The Oh, and then the rest of this is about sort of dealing with audition nerves and anxiety. One more, they should just do auditions without glasses. Yeah, these days I'll slate with my glasses, and then if I'm auditioning for a doctor, or some person that's supposed to be smart. Again, shallow industry, how you look is important. If I want to raise my IQ by 20 points, I just wear my glasses. I'm like, yes, now I'm a doctor. I'm doing the same acting, but I'm wearing glasses, so clearly I'm a doctor. Then I'll put on the like round glasses with the lenses popped out. If I want to up my IQ that way. And otherwise, yeah, just have them audition without glasses. Oh man, I'm. Thank you so much for putting questions in the chat window. Because there was so much I wanted to cover in this that I realized that I haven't like asked you for your questions. And so we are at 2:00 now, and so anybody who needs to like leave and go off into their life. Okay. I want to throw one more resource at you first, which is this website called We Audition. I think most people don't know about it. And it's inexpensive and a fantastic resource. So if you're like, oh, but like coach, I would love to get my kid support or coaching, or they're like, when I run scenes with them, they're like, it's weird. There's this website called weaudition.com. Right, weaudition.com. And if you're signed into the website, which I think we should be able to do. Come on, Michael Bean. Then I think it costs $10 a month to sign up, and then you go to Get a Reader, and then there's a whole bunch of folks, basically all over the world. I've never been on here where there are not some people, because they have actors, on here who are in the UK and or deeper in Europe, and so you go on here, you click one of these actors, and you can book them sort of immediately, to to read with you or practice with you. And some of them are like, here's my rate is $10 an hour, but then a lot of them are like reads for free, reads for tips, right? So if it just means that if you want somebody, to rehearse with your kid, for half an hour, especially if like, you're in the house, so you're not worried about, so it's not like a supervision issue, you can probably get that for $10 there, literally any time, day or night. And that is a resource that has I was only became aware of it last year, and I think it's a fantastic resource for parents, because then you don't have to book somebody in advance. You don't have to call somebody like me, like, hey, let's coordinate schedules. Are you available? No. You can just literally go on whenever you're ready, and book somebody for half an hour. Right? Doesn't that sound appealing? That's what I do when I'm taping auditions. Is that when I'm taping an audition, I'll drag my ring light over the wall, and then this like janky setup with like a chair and the boxes and the laptop on top, I'll put that right behind the ring light, and pull up the actor on there so that I'm looking at them. And I'll book somebody for 15 minutes to read the other side of the lines with me. And I'm like, I don't care if they're a good actor. I'm going to turn their volume down anyway. And so that's really, that's what I've been doing for my own taped auditions. Anyway, so we are at 2 o'clock. I packed so much good stuff in. If you need to leave into your life, please do. But otherwise, I'm so happy to stick around for a while if you want to ask questions. So if anybody's got a question that they like want to ask, with their voice, we can sort of talk about it a little bit. I'm happy to stick around. Yeah. Thanks everybody for showing up. Oh my gosh. Like, way to support your young people. Yes. Right. Having a supportive parent is like an enormously significant factor in the success of young actors. Right. It's enormously significant, because there is just so much kind of logistical stuff to handle. Yeah. Thee, please jump in.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I just have a very basic question, and I might have missed it because we were having sound problems at the beginning. But so in terms of getting an agent, like the first step is just emailing through that list that you were saying, right, and sending them a 10 or 20-second clip from class or from like a demo and that kind of stuff. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, if you go and look at that. And look at the handout that I sent, you'll see this. It says first go to their website and do some research.
Right.
Because most of people will not do that, and those just go into the slush pile. So some agents will say on their website, send us 20 seconds. Some will say send us 2 minutes. Some will say just send us a headshot. And then if they don't say any of those things, then you can send them whatever. Also, if you sort of read into the details of the if you read in the details of the handout that I sent, you will find that I'm always like, am I going to get in trouble when I say this? But like anybody who's watched 2 hours of video at this point, like they deserve this information, which is that if you go into IMDb Pro, right? Like, so if you were to get a free trial account, which you have to give them your credit card information, but you can get it for 2 weeks, then every single talent agency, you can look up each agent and it will give you their direct email. So if you don't do that, then your submissions will go into the slush pile with everybody else's. But, and here's the thing, if you are going to directly email an agent, please be responsible about that. Remember, their marketing professionals get 500 emails a day, and do your homework. So don't just email them with the form letter where you've just plugged in their name. If you were going to do that, look at their roster and to see what kind of clients they have, and send them like, hey, looked at your roster. Looks like you don't have anybody who looks like my daughter. I see that you look like you rep some clients who are as new as she is. We'd be really interested in meeting with you if you're into that. And is that more likely to be seen quickly, than something that goes into the one that somebody's assistant goes through once a day or once a week? Yeah, of course it is. So pro tip.
Sorry, Michael, can I just clarify that for a second? So you're suggesting actually that we go into the agency and target specific through IMDb and target specific agents within the agency.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
That's great advice. And it would be okay to target 2 or 3 of them, presumably in the same agency.
it would be okay to email all 15 of them.
Okay, fair
Right.
enough.
Like
Um,
they don't talk to each other enough, and they actually will forget you exist if they're not interested. So
Sure. And then would you actually expect to hear back from them like, yeah, sorry, no,
no,
or just no news, forget it, but they
no.
may get back to you?
That's
They're
so I stand by the recommendation that's in the handout, which is that you sort of pace yourself, and do like 5 at a time or 10 at a time, so that by the time you've worked to the end of the list, it's been 6 months, and then
and then you just send it
and
again.
then you just start again.
Okay,
Exactly.
thank you.
And then
Perfect. Thanks.
and especially if you've got like, look, if your kid won the genetic lottery and they happen to look like somebody who's famous right now, awesome. Like, that's great. Then yeah, lots of agents are going to want to just look at their picture and want to sign them immediately. Like, and if that's not the case, especially if they're like, like I fall kind of into that category, right? Like bald white guys mostly are like thugs and security guards and like military generals. And I'm like really kind and empathic. So like, yeah, it took me a while to find an agent because I had to show them, I had to like wait till somebody was like, there's something interesting about you. I want to see your stuff and I want to meet with you. Wow, you really are a skilled actor. That interests me. So for me specifically, it took time to find an agent because they didn't look at my picture and see dollar signs. They were like, cha-ching. Instead, they were like, nah, you could use another 70 pounds of muscle. I'm like, yeah, but that's not going to happen. Right. And so especially if you're like me and they don't slot immediately into a super marketable look category, it might take you 4 rounds of submissions. It might take you 2 years, before you find an agent who's like a top tier agent who's like, hell yes, we're excited about you. Fine. So what? Like if it's short-term gain you're looking for, I don't know, get your kid investing in the stock market or something. I don't know what short-term, but like acting is not it's not a rational payoff system. Like it just truly isn't. Like the only reason to do acting long-term is because you love doing it. And like, if your kid is lucky and they make a bunch of money from doing commercials and they pay for college, great. Like kids definitely do that. Is it something to bank on? No, not at all. Right? It's just one of those things to be grateful for if it happens. And in the meantime, you just treat it like you would if your kid was real excited about soccer, which is you're like, cool, you're really into soccer. I see that you love it. I see that the love of that thing is feeding you. Of course, I want to support you in that. Which is like, I don't know. I assume why y'all are here anyway, right? Like it's just that in this very strange world where like at 9 you can be a professional, and make a bunch of money. Like part of supporting them, is by like helping hook them into their love of it by giving them an actual shot. Like I get that. It's just not something to like, I don't know, plan your college education for. Which is why incidentally, which is why when somebody's like, hey, this iPop thing, is this a good investment? I'm just like, no. If you ever see that, like, it's not a scam, but man, it comes as close as humanly possible. There are a lot of these like showcase things that are like, give us $5,000 and then you'll get to do your thing in front of a panel of talent agents. Which is just like a whole bunch of really bored talent agents who've been paid $400 or $500 to sit there for the day, watching hundreds and hundreds of kids do 20 seconds of commercial at a time. And do some kids find agents that way? Of course. Are they the same kids who would have found agents anyway if they just submitted their own stuff to those agents for free? Yes, they are. So by being here, hopefully I've saved you $5,000. And then you're like, ha, yes, yay me. 2 hours of my life sounded like a lot, but now I'm awesome. Right. Oh, living in a couple of thoughts of living in a larger not living in a larger center. Currently, I live on Galliano Island. So I am absolutely in that place myself, Jess. And I'm not worried about that at all. Like, if I get a callback that's in person, like, yeah, I'm willing to do the like 6-hour round trip, but like, especially in the world of self-tapes, hasn't happened yet. For smaller roles, they're going to book right from the tape. And if they're paying me, yeah, I'll go wherever they want me to go. And if it's a callback for something that I'm like, that I'm excited about, like, yeah, I'll do the round trip and like do Vancouver stuff at the same time. What's really beautiful right now is that for the first audition, I'm not going to be asked to travel all the way to Vancouver to spend 30 seconds auditioning for a car commercial. Because like that right now, I personally would turn down. Now for me, I've stopped auditioning for commercials almost completely because I'm in the union of BC performers. And most commercials are non-union. So as soon as you join the union, almost all of your commercial auditions are going to go away. Like and a lot of the work for kids is commercials. So your agent will probably recommend that that even if they book a union job, that they don't claim the credit and they don't join the union because they're going to want to make money. Right? Like your agent is going to want to eat. And so unless they think your kid is super marketable for film and TV, they'll probably be like, yeah, you want to hold off on joining the union. Unless like I don't know, Lee, maybe your agent is like, oh no, join the union right away, because they don't rep for commercials or they just don't, commercials are not part of what they do. So if your agent's like, awesome, join the union immediately, probably it just means commercials are not part of their jam.
Michael, I have a question.
Yes.
So for the people who we're going through, submitting auditions for Natalia, and thanks to your classes, we see huge improvement in her acting skills. And we were just wondering, and
Totally paid her to say that.
I brought that up in our breakout room as well, that we just keep doing audition, but we don't pass the what was the term that
the gatekeeper.
The gatekeeper. So I'm just wondering, how when you submit an audition, you submit slates, a couple of scenes, and then in the last one we did, there was just like a personality chat that we included. And then you mentioned that it's very important that you leave the good impression for the first couple of seconds. So is there an order in what they actually look at? Do they look at the slate first and then go to the scenes, or is it just randomly they pick something?
It's a really good question. It's really important to read each breakdown in detail, because most casting directors will spell out in incredible detail. They will say, make them all one file, or they will say like, make them separate files. There's no way to control which one they look at first, unless they've said, make them all one file. And if they've said, make them all one file, then you can cheat. Then if let's say that Natalia is doing like a longer script that's got 3 scenes, and one of those scenes, the scene that's the third one on the script, she nailed it. Like, she is amazing. Then you can cheat and put that one first.
Oh, that's a very good.
Don't tell anybody I told you, but you totally can. Like, what stops you?
Oh, that's a very great tip, because we usually start by slate.
Of course.
By the time we get to taping the slate, she's already tired and she's already her energy.
Well, and if you know that, then tape the slate first, or
That's
tape,
right.
or tape the slate on a totally separate day, but with the same wardrobe that you normally use with the same background.
Exactly.
Right, like often they will tell you whether to put the slate first or last. If they say put the slate first, you got to put the slate first. Like if they tell you to do something and you completely ignore them, then whatever you show them better be amazing, because the first thing they're going to be like is, oh my God, they didn't read the instructions. Right. But if you're worried about that, just make your slate shorter. Hi, this is my name, this is where I live, blah, 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 like 5 seconds.
Is there any specific format? I mean, sometimes she just like does movement with her hands, or just become funky in her movement. I don't know. Is there any particular, or do you have to just stand still? And
the slate is what I do for students in my class is I say, look right at the camera, say, hi, I'm amazing and I'm happy to meet you. Great. Now slate like that. Hey, I'm Michael Bean and I'm 6'1" and I'm in Vancouver, BC. Right? That the energy should be direct to camera and very clean, very professional, and really, hey, I'm amazing and I'm happy to meet you. Because that's what the slate is. It's you looking into the eyes of the decision makers and giving them a sense of who you are.
okay, thank you very much, Michael.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. More good questions? Okay, yeah, right. You've been listening to me talk for 2 hours. You're like, let's get out of here. Like but if you've got more good questions, then you are always free to email me. Like if sort of we hang up and you're like, aha, like now I have my question. Like email me, it's fine. I'm teaching less than I was. Like right now, I'm just teaching the advanced class. I'm teaching a couple of adult classes, and so I'm available to be a resource. Any final questions before we wrap up? Now I do have a question. It's not. Oh yeah, of course. The Nemo. Let's we can talk about that privately, or we can talk about it. Nemo's in my Tuesday adult class, so let's we can talk about it on Tuesday, or we can talk about it privately, whichever you prefer. Okay, going once, going twice. Ah, man, thank you for making the time. You know, like so, like I said, it's such a success factor, you know, for young actors to have a supportive parent. Like it just makes a huge difference. So thank you for all the time and energy you're putting in. And I'll see you at the next time.
Thank
Thanks,
you. That was
Michael.
great.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Michael.